Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio, so today I'm going to be showing you what I think might be one of the most exciting cards coming out in Burning Shadows. It's a Alolan Raticate, a card that, not unlike the Marshadow card I featured just earlier today, initially looked kind of underwhelming, and then I kept looking, and the more I look, the more I love him. Now, Dark as a typing is kind of irrelevant. You get the odd ghost Pokémon that come through as psychic Pokémon in the trading card game that are weak, but these are few and far between, ladies and gentlemen. He is weak to fighting, which is a bit of a pain because of the aforementioned Marshadow, and of course Lycanroc, and resistance to psychic is always good, especially with Gyarados running around. Now, 120 HP is actually kind of low, but it's not bad for a stage 1, and if we compare it to the Evolutions Raticate, it's actually looking pretty good. Now, there is a second attack here, we'll talk about it very briefly at the end, but really it's the first attack here that makes us delighted. For 0 energy, it is an Alolan Pokemon, they often have free attacks that cost no energy. 10 damage, meh. 60 if Alolan Raticate has a tool attached to him. That, ladies and gentlemen, is brilliant. I was a huge fan, as some of you may well know, of Donphan Prime that did 60 for 1 energy. 60 for 0 is ridiculous. That is enough to KO something like Rowlet, Fomantis, Grubbin, and crucially Alolan Vulpix, all of which are seeing quite a lot of play. It means that it's more important than ever to try and find 70 HP basics like Trubbish and Machop, although even with them, all it will take is a Professor Kukui to do an extra 20, put it up to 80, and get the KO. But this leads me to a quick little side rant here. We don't have a 70 HP Rockruff. We've got this Rockruff that has 60 HP. We've got this Rockruff that has 60 HP. Japan has this Rockruff that has 70 HP that came out in the Ash vs Team Rocket deck that we apparently aren't good enough to have outside of Japan, which with things like Decidueye's Feather Arrow and now this, not to mention the Lycanroc coming in this set that does 60 to a basic for 1 energy, it's actually a pretty big deal at this stage. And, you know, that set also has an exclusive Beware. We need this set. But the key is here, ladies and gentlemen, that this Raticate is going to have a choice band attached most of the time. Which means you're not doing 60 for 0 energy. You're doing 90 for 0 energy. And then you're popping a Professor Kukui down as your supporter for the turn. And you're doing 110 for 0 energy. Hey, you know that Shaman on your bench? You've just KO'd a Shaman for 2 prizes, and you've not even had to play an energy. If we ever get a Dark Week GX, which takes over the format, or at least sees a bunch of play, you're going to be able to do 220 damage for 0 energy, and this card is going to be amazing. Now, some of you might notice a deliberate omission there, and it was a deliberate omission, because if it wasn't, I'd have just gone and edited it out. Lunala GX is weak to Dark, but it also has 250 HP, which kind of ruins maths, because you're only doing 220. If you're in Expanded, we only ever had 1 EX that was weak to Dark, although we had a Mega EX as well. It was Gengar, which does have 220 HP with the Mega. So in Expanded, if you're really worried about Mega Gengar, Raticate's got your back, bro. Now, do remember that your opponent is going to be playing Field Blower, so you're likely to need to go and get a new choice band every turn. And let's face it, even if they don't play a Field Blower, you've only got 120 HP. So you're likely to be KO'd every turn. You are going to need more than 4 choice bands in this deck. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we've got options. Does anyone remember Eco Arm? I mean, it's going to rotate almost certainly after the World Championships, but for the time being, we've got Eco Arm. And then let's not forget Puzzle of Time. You play 2 of them at the same time, and you get to just grab any 2 cards from your discard and put them into your hand. So it's really not the end of the world here. We've got a whole bunch of options. Now, as a tech, until it rotates out, you have always got to keep Alolan Raticate in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Because now that decks are playing things like Bridget that they search with Tapu Lele, it is not going to be hard to get that Alolan Rattata out. And with decks playing stuff like Alolan Vulpix, it's not going to be hard to find Alolan Raticate. Decks like this are getting easier and easier to use, and you need to keep it in mind, because any Dark Week Pokemon is going to suffer with this. Even a non-EX, non-GX Pokemon where you're not doing extra damage with Choice Band, you're still doing 120, and I want to make this really, really clear. I'm going to repeat it one more time. For 0 energy. Now that could potentially lead to Raticate, or Alolan Raticate as he is more properly known, being given the title of Donk Master General. Because sometimes your opponent has a bad start. Sometimes your opponent sits there with one Pokemon, maybe an Alolan Vulpix, with 60 HP, uses Beacon, and then passes to you for the turn. And if you can do 60 damage there and then, you win the game. Well, that, ladies and gentlemen, is where Alolan Raticate comes in. Now, you can use a Wally to go ahead and evolve up on the first turn of the game, and now that Tapu Lele's out, you can use Tapu Lele's Wonder Tag to search for the Wally, so you don't need to be playing 3 or 4 copies to try and make sure you find it on turn 1. You just need to be playing a single copy and cross your fingers that it doesn't end up in your prizes at the beginning of the game. Then you can do 60 damage on the first turn of the game. You don't even need to play an energy. Although do remember that without a tool you're only doing 10 damage, so you do need to find a tool. But one of the things I really like about Alolan Raticate is that you can put the energy on a benched Pokemon while attacking with Alolan Raticate, so that you're building up your next attacker while attacking with Alolan Raticate. Now, if you've got the space in your deck, playing a 1-1 line of this just for donking or cheeky KO purposes could be an awful lot of fun. I've already gone through a whole bunch of 60 HP Pokemon that get KO'd by this. Fomantis, Grubbin, Rockruff, Alolan Vulpix. All of these are going down and you're getting cheeky KOs, and not only are you only giving up one prize in return, but you're not even having to waste any energy. That is awesome. But of course, I keep talking about cards that may or may not rotate after Worlds. Alolan Raticate will be legal for the very first time at the World Championships. And he will be legal, or she, with the Ancient Origins Evolutions. We've got Vaporeon, we've got Jolteon, we've got Flareon, and now you're not actually hitting 120 or 180 with a Choice Band. To Dark Week EXs and GXs, you're now hitting that to Dark Week, or Water Week, or Lightning Week, or Fire Week. Worried about Volcanion? Well, Vaporeon's going to come around, let you get a one-hit KO, 180 with a Choice Band, 0 energy. Worried about Yveltal? Well, Jolteon's going to come along, let you do 180 damage, get a one-hit KO with a Choice Band for 0 energy. Worried about Lurantis or Golisopod? And Golisopod is one of my picks for Worlds this year. Well, you will need to play a Professor Kukui and a Choice Band, but then you're doing 220 damage if you've got a Flareon out. Now, I know this sounds a bit clunky, it's a bit of a combo, but you can play this deck with 0 energy. You literally don't need to play a single energy card. So you've got space to put in these Evolutions and Professor Kukui and Choice Band and Puzzle of Time, because you're not playing any energy. It's going to be like the Stormfront Gyarados deck that ran for literally 0 energy. And when you're not playing any energy, you've got so much more space to play all of the rest of the cards that you want to play. And then, of course, even if you're not against EXs and GXs, you're still doing 120 to any Pokemon that's weak to Dark, Water, Fire, or Lightning for 0 energy. This is amazing! As a side note here, one fun little tech, as you've got a bit of room going spare, if you are against a non-EX, non-GX deck, so Choice Band's doing nothing, do consider Poison Barb as your tool of choice, because then you're poisoning them and doing a little bit of extra damage. Now, there is a second attack here. It's 60 damage for a Dark Energy flip a coin. If tails, this attack does nothing. So either you put a tool on Raticate, a Alolan Raticate, and then you're doing 60 damage, or you put an energy on him and you've got a 50% chance of doing 60 damage. Or you play a Victini and an energy and you've got a 75% chance of doing 60 damage. This attack is terrible and garbage and a huge waste of your time and resources. Do not play it. It is not good. Overall, this is a really, really nice attacker. You can use it to donk, KO your opponent's only Pokemon on the first turn, or at least get cheeky KOs in the early game on small non-EX, non-GX Pokemon. You can use it to take 2 prizes off a Shaymin, or you can play it with the Evolutions and just do a whole bunch of damage to EXs and GXs while giving up 1 prize and having a whole bunch of space in your deck because you're not playing any energy. For now, I'm going to give Alolan Raticate a respectable 4 Wassies. But if we ever see a GX that is weak to dark and has 220 HP or less, i.e. is not a stage 2, then Alolan Raticate is going to be amazing, because he's a stage 1 that can go into any deck and takes no energy. It's super easy to tech into any deck. This, ladies and gentlemen, could be even better than a 4 Wassie card. Now, you know the deal. There is a comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at the Wassie. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and the most important thing as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.